Yeah, so Tito Magoti, thanks for joining. I'm so much happy to see you again. I think the last time we met was in the UK, right?
Yeah, I remember we met in Edinburgh.
Edinburgh, yeah, we also met in York, but I think the last time was London, during the last
Oh yeah,
training seminar,
yeah,
I guess. Yes.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that. I remember that. I
Yeah,
remember
now
that.
we came
Yeah.
back
And how are
to
you? How have you been?
I'm fine. We came back to build our nation, and I know we have been
Yeah,
busy.
yeah, yeah,
Everyone
yeah.
has been very busy, but it's nice to catch up again online. I hope you are doing
Yeah.
fine wherever you are. But I think most of times we usually forget to ask ourselves, like, how are you doing? This question, we skip it most of time. We just want to know, like, what are you doing there? Where are you? But I think maybe let me start. How are you doing there?
No, Joe, it's a pleasure to speak to you after I think almost a year since when we left school. It's been a year plus. Yeah, and we probably forget to ask how someone is doing because we link up on social media, and oftentimes would assume that everyone is in a good shape. But I'm doing good. Yeah, and it's nice to speak to you this evening. And how are you?
I am fine as well. Yeah, I've been working back home, doing supply chain activities.
Yeah.
So balancing the data and my pharmacy background, which has been a very wonderful journey to me. I thank God. I can't
Mm.
complain. Yeah, things are going fine. So
Yeah.
maybe, I told you a bit about this session. We talk about careers here. So I think the most important thing when we start talking about career is to introduce ourselves. And because I'm interviewing you,
Yeah.
so I think I should just go ahead to ask you, who is Tito? Like whenever you are introducing yourself, how are you describing yourself? I know people know you, but yeah, tell us from your perspective. Yes.
Uh, Sometimes people know the things that they only get to know until when you open up. Uh, Yeah, um, for me, for those who know me, I am a lawyer. I practice law in Tanzania. I have a background in law. I did my bachelor's degree in law, and then I was accepted to practice law after doing a training with the Law School of Tanzania. I then did two other master's degrees, focusing on international human rights. I did some aspect of criminal justice, but also I did aspects of African human rights systems. Um, yeah, so I practice law. We often call it public law because human rights is part of public law. We do a bit of criminal defense in terms of lawyering, but also I have specific interest in human rights advocates. Other people knows me for my activism. I am an activist, a human rights defender, which is part of our usual, conversations in the society about governance, human rights, justice systems, and more. Yeah, and yeah, I at the moment I run a small, I would call it a baby law firm. I run a baby law firm in Dar es Salaam where I am the managing partner. Yeah, and also I'm involved in several other work across the continent. We're supporting NGOs, but also we support human rights organizations back home in terms of litigation, research, but also sometimes, writing.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Tito. It's so nice to see that you are doing a lot of things, and we also see impact. It's something which is really impressive, especially for young people in our generation. Maybe before we get into discussing a lot about what you are doing in details, I would like to
Yeah,
know
yeah.
when did your journey as a lawyer started? I just want to know what was the influence behind and how was
I
your
would
journey
say,
like? Yes.
um, no, I would say say that it's linked to my family. Um, it's linked to my family in a way that I grew up in a family where my grandfather was Tarishi. So Tarishi is like I don't know in proper terms, but he was doing adjudicative work with the judiciary of Tanzania. And back then, during colonial times, the Talish were like clerks, like assistants to the magistrates. So I think it originates there. But again, I saw like a reality of me doing law when I was in high school. Yeah, my involvement in student activism, gave some people confidence that I can study law as a subject. But also, I got a very good recommendation from one of my brothers who is also a lawyer that, with your enthusiasm and determination, you can make a very good lawyer. And then when I went to the university, I was selected to study law at Mzumbe University in Morogoro. And then, sometimes you start something without knowing some realities within. I don't know how many ordinary high school students knows about law, this is a bachelor's degree in law, these are the prospects. You can do this after school, you can, So these are conversations that are not are not appreciated at some levels. But then when I started university to when I started knowing some opportunities that are available to lawyers. Some choose to be prosecutors, they work with the government, some work in government's legal department, some are magistrates, some of them escalate, I mean, some of them elevate to becoming judges, some are private practitioners, some do administrative work, someone is a lawyer, but you will find them is a human resource manager in this or that company who is an admin. Others choose to do research, with NGOs. Some become writers. Others adopt several other disciplines of becoming private practitioners in their areas of specialty and choice. Yeah, so that's how I grew up, and um, my my motive to practice human rights and public law, um, I seriously believe that it stems from my orientation on civil society work, because when we were at university, we started an NGO that was focused on inspiring underprivileged students to see their dream through education. So we would visit orphanage centers in Morogoro, would mobilize our colleagues, our classmates that, let's contribute 1,000, 2,000. We buy, provisions for the kids. We buy school appliances. Yeah, so then we created that movement as part of our giving back to the community. And as you know, in Morogoro, these stories are not highly told, but Mzumbe University is a bit out of town. It's in the village. Mzumbe is a village. Men get an opportunity to interact with women in that village. And then the end product is that, Joe, you finish school and then you leave Joe Junior in Mzumbe. So ideally, those who are brave enough, they live with their kids if they get to. But there's a couple of cases of, these. So some of them are called by the names of the faculties or the names of the program. You say this one is called kanaitwa Kasopam, kanaitwa LLB. This one is called BAF. It's in a way, I mean, it's in a way, it has a humor, but for us, we saw that, you know what, this is an opportunity, at least to do corporate social responsibility and support the kids of our brothers who are left here. So we did that, and then we formally registered an NGO that we called Hope Rise Organization. And then when we finished school, our mandate was highly in Dar es Salaam. So we worked in Dar es Salaam, visiting schools, giving motivational talks, supporting the underprivileged students. We did visit a couple of schools actually, especially from 2014 when we formally registered the NGO. And then when we got calls to join other organizations, like you get a job, so we had to leave our voluntary work that we were doing. But our work left a legacy because some of the colleagues we were working with, they studied education. So they changed their prize organization to become like an education tuition center. The fact that people don't easily make it to the job market. So for them, that was like, this is our sport. Yeah, so they worked there. And then myself and my colleague Ali Saif, we joined the Legal and Human Center, where my life has been. I grew up there. I joined as a young, um, hopeless, helpless researcher. And then I got so much inspiration from Dr. Bisimba, um, who was our director. We worked together. She gave us critical mentorship. Yeah, and then we eventually found ourselves in the streets, and now I'm in the streets, having left my former employment a year ago.
Oh, that's very impressive. I'm just happy to see how your journey has been unfolding one step at a time. And there is one thing you
Yeah,
mentioned. You mentioned the role of mentors, and I think
yeah,
this is what many people
yeah.
are missing whenever they are trying to find their career path. You have mentioned Dr. Bisimba. So if I ask you, is Dr. Bisimba one of those people who actually influenced you to become who you are today, or do you have other people that you look at them as role models in your career?
Yeah, definitely Dr. Bisimba. There's a day I tweeted that Dr. Bisimba, so at workplace, Dr. Bisimba never wanted people to address her as a boss. At least address me as BB, you know, BB Mama. Let's take it in that way so that we are not creating um like critical boundaries or bridges. A boss. If I am baby to you because I'm in my 50s and you 21, so you have access to me. You can easily access me. So she's an inspiration, and I always tell people that I'm one of her students. The moral support that you get from someone who was supposed to be a boss, inspiring you to believe in your capabilities. So, in NGOs like Legal and Human Center, you are given a department or a unit, and you are supposed to deliver. Imagine traveling to Gaeta to train small-scale miners, on all things human rights, access to justice, land issues, because these are the key issues they face. An investor is coming with a mining license. So the investor has mineral rights or mining rights, others say, but I have surface rights, and I am reliably informed that my place has minerals. So you would want to contest, and then it becomes a critical contest between you and my mineral rights holder. Um, the ultimate goal will be that they will come and do assessment and relocate you, because that land is now allocated to another person by the government, because you don't own the minerals. It's the government that owns the minerals. So you're meeting these communities to teach them about, assessment, valuation of land, participation processes whenever they want to relocate them, available opportunities, issues relating to land grabbing, land allocation. So they have to know, so that once there's a process of relocating them, then they should be able to know the nuances. So you are trusted to go and do this away from home. And sometimes you travel with an external expert. So you also expected to be a leader in that kind of a setting. But the program has to run as expected. The results have to be recorded. You have to record the attendance because it's a work that also you know these things, you know all things data. You have to weigh to measure the results so that you can see the proportion between the energy invested in the work and the outcome. Yeah, so that one gave us confidence in a way to work, but also to believe in our capabilities. Also, exposure to the public. You are appointed to go to the press to address the public on maybe something related to access to justice. Or you are requested by a media house that, we have a topic here on re-entry policy for pregnant schoolgirls. So you're expected to go give a legal perspective, a human rights perspective, a child rights perspective. So ideally, you will have to read. You can't go on a TV to embarrass your ancestors, if at all you have one. So you have to read, you have to prepare yourselves. And this is how they build independent thinking. And sometimes you go on a program with the minister, for example. I remember there's a day I was on a program with Minister Jaffo, and I was just young, So you are expected to counter the narrative of the government in a good way, to bring about a balanced conversation. Yeah. So Dr. Bisimba, there's a couple of other people, including Tundu Lissu. Some of the people knows that Tundu is my idol. I'm a student of Tundu Lissu. Um, Tundu is who he thinks he is. He's well knowledgeable. He reads a lot, Even times we sit with him, you go home with something. You learn the confidence, you learn the intellectual, you exploit the intellectual side of him to the extent of telling yourself that, yeah, I'm properly humbled today, you know.
Yeah, thank you so much for mentioning a couple of very important things. Like the first one I've picked from your story is, I think we should be thankful to people who actually gave us opportunities to stand alone, because actually that is one of the very important stage for you to grow and to
Mm.
understand right now I have to do things on my own. So I think
Yeah.
just being able to do something alone makes you like create a chance to grow. And I think that is something we should be very much thankful to people who were ahead of us and they gave us opportunities. But you also
Mm.
mentioned something about Tundu Lissu, about reading a lot. I think this is
Mm.
where maybe most of young people nowadays, they don't have confidence to speak and take actions. I think we lack so much of the knowledge, which is important whenever you want to do something. And this actually brings
Mm.
us to the topic of today, because I wanted us to discuss a little bit about young people and their impact in the development of the nation. So when we
Mm.
were children, we were told that we are the nation of tomorrow. And ghafla bin
Mm.
vu, tomorrow is today. So do
Mm.
you think as young people, as Tanzanians, the way you see them, like in social media, in internet, some of them, they call themselves vijana wa hovyo. Do you think now we have
Mm.
young people who the old men can believe and can trust these people, we can give them a country and they can bring this country somewhere?
So two perspectives. One is that yes, we have a vibrant pool of experts from among ourselves, whom I believe in, but also we have a pool of a lot of people who are innovative. I'll give you examples across sectors. You remember, Joe, even in our cohort when we were at school in the UK, um, I had never met some of you. Like, I know you and I know this is what you're doing. Um, think about the interview process. The way it attracts a lot of people with great ideas, uh, to the extent of Chevening getting overwhelmed that, you know what, we have to trim, to the extent we can accommodate them. So I think there's a lot of young people, who are doing great things in various sectors of the economy. Um, think about, a media outlet like the Chanzo. Um, the Chanzo is owned by young people. At least I know three of them. I know Joel, I know Tony, I know Halifa. Um, and in fact, I know how they started, because when Halifa lost his job on the other outlet, um, I I I was in prison. Let me say this. I was in prison and he came to check on me. Um, and then he came to check on me at times when I had not read his articles on the news outlet he was working with. So I was a bit concerned that Halifa is no longer writing or is in field, because he was a reporter, correspondent, whatever, or contributor, whatever. So then, unlucky, he had lost his job, and he came to tell me officially. And at the position where I was standing, I was like, this wasn't supposed to happen. So how are we going to survive? You know what he told me? He said, Tony and I are starting something. That was 2020. But we speak about the Chanzo, which is one of the reliable, media outlet in Tanzania. They do excellent journalism, excellent. Um, think about the young people who are doctors, engineers, leave alone those who are employed, those who are not formally employed, but they start certain things. Nowadays, doctors can integrate technology, into their work. I know some of the doctors are working in the UK, like Dr. Shayo. Shayo is a tech medical doctor. I know a couple of others are in. They moved it to. They moved it to. Is it Canada? Yeah, they moved to Canada from the UK. They are doctors and they integrate tech. Think about those who are working in finance sector, climate justice. There's a couple of few young people. Yeah, those who are in politics, we'll debate about the kind of politics we do. But I think, I know some of the colleagues who are in, CM, who are in the opposition, people with determination. Some of them are working, with multinational companies. Some are working with, African Union agents. Some are working with the UN. Yeah, so I think in a way, I wouldn't say my generation is a failed generation, or it can't be trusted. We have the capabilities, but then there comes limitations. Whether our circumstances are accommodative of the young people and our shenanigans. We also have a lot of shenanigans stemming from our upbringing. We were brought differently. Others were a bit privileged. Others are hustlers. You're hustling until you make it. Others stepped on an ice and they were able to slide easily. And others are laissez-faire. They would not be trusted just because they are lacking a proper motivation to do things in the right way. Your parent or your father works for a foundation, and then this person misappropriates money, and now it has become a habit until that the young people around, they know that this is the right way to easily make it. So you wouldn't expect integrity, and distance from this kind of a person. But those who are abroad, what their bringing is a bit, sound and well-rounded. They would also have so much bearing with their mentors. Yeah, so in a way, Joe, it's 50-50, and I think the earlier weighs higher than the weakness. But also speak about Vijana Ahovio. Um, people have profiles on the internet that doesn't reflect what they do. So others are in the internet just to push the days. And also you speak about a platform like Twitter in Tanzania, which is associated with criticism to the government. People think that Twitter is people a bit harsh, they're a bit free. So some of them choose not to carry it as their image, that I'm just here to have fun. So others will be posting memes, others will be talking all things football, you know, only to avoid that judgment. Vijana wa hovyo, vijana wa Twitter, wapendi serikali na nini.
Just a continuation to the discussion we have already started. Mwalimu Nyerere once spoke about the so-called vijana jeuri. I know you know about that. I don't know how I can translate it in English. Vijana jeuri should be maybe aggressive youth or rebellious. I don't know if that fits well, but generally he was talking about having a young generation of people who can actually challenge the systems just for the intention of improving systems. And there have been some discussions, I think mostly online, that maybe Tanzanians' youth are not as aggressive as compared to other countries, maybe Nigerians, our neighbors, Kenyans, and maybe some other countries. Do you think there is a reason as to why Tanzanians' youth are somehow a little bit less confident as compared to other youth in other countries? And do you think, like, by us being in that way, are we having a disadvantage for taking charge of the future of the country?
Mm, yeah, I would still go back to a similar assumption that I had. Um, Myself, I'm surrounded by some of the courageous, young people of our country. And I see their determination to making things happen in a way that they think this is more acceptable and durable and sustainable. Um, Yet again, our character as Tanzanians, as compared to other nations, I agree with you. Joe, you even remember when we went to school, the aggression that our counterparts would have in terms of looking for opportunities, um, even wanting to work abroad. People think that is not patriotic going to school in India, then I'll go work somewhere else, and then I'll go back home. So sometimes people think it's not being patriotic if you go to school and then remain there. But others do that purposely because there's also a different lifestyle in terms of what you do, the work ethic, and also it has bearing with how much you make. You would make more when you're working abroad and you have self-discipline if the job is well paying. Yeah, so our colleagues are a bit much focused on grabbing opportunities from all walks of lives. Unlike ourselves, sometimes we would want an opportunity to present itself. Also think about even applying for scholarships, for example, which is something that young people should be encouraged to do with a view to also exploring the world and also seeing other opportunities. You remember in our cohort, we were supposed to be 19, and unluckily, 16 of us went to school. But again, the Kenyan delegation had more than 40 candidates. Kenya's population is relatively small as compared to ourselves. But then they sent more scholars to school in a year. And that was only in the UK. There's a couple more of others are going to the US, Europe, even here within the continent. Think about the top schools on the continent. You would at least find a Kenyan, not one. And in a very good paying position, you would find. Go to the UN agencies, go to the African Union, go to multinationals. So in terms of being competitive, I think our comparative disadvantage is maybe the language. Sometimes we fail to appreciate our skills and our capabilities because we cannot effectively throw ourselves in the market. Even some are making it to interviews and they fail to impress the interviewers because yes, we know that this is what you do, but now tell us that this is what you do. So you'd find that an excellent candidate, is losing an opportunity because of the comparative disadvantage, or you'd call it advantage, that this one is more eloquent in terms of telling their work, and this one is relatively weaker. So I would say that the aggression, the aggressive part of it, we're a bit slow, but also going back to mwalimu, vijana tunataka vijana jeuri watakaoweza kuasi dhidi ya mifumo kandamizi. Yeah, mwalimu was ahead of time, in a way that he knew that political power, he knew the sweetness of political power. And political power can make you corrupt, eventually absolutely corrupt. It will corrupt you absolutely. So you need a society that will be able to say, you know what, we are a society. Don't think about a nation. When you think about a nation, you picture something very bigger. But if you think about a community, say in our village chairperson is maybe corrupt, is misappropriating money. What are we supposed to do as villagers? We call a meeting and we say no. So if you take a setting of a village to a higher level, it will also picture that, we have to do this to anyone else in any position. So that is what Mwalimu was envisaging in a way that this nation has to be protected by the people of this nation. And it is you, the sovereign, that has to always come and say no whenever you feel like this, in this aspect, I have to say no. So at a higher level, would have expected to have a vibrant parliament, for instance, that would also be an inspiration for young people to say, you know what, I want to excel in politics. So then let me run for a councillor position, or let me run for MP position, so that my voice can be reflected effectively. Others would probably form civil society organizations, not necessarily telling the government no, but providing alternative voices. But the challenge we face is that I would say it has become neutralized in a way that you don't find argumentations and contestations that are oriented on policy, evidence-based advocates, So we are, in a way, our political orientation now has diluted even critical thinking in a way. You even talk to people in senior positions. Some are giving up on being, some are giving up on observing integrity, even personal integrity, because everyone all around is trying to bring something home for as much as they can. Yeah, so even for us, the young people, where do we borrow inspiration? And how far, to what extent is our political culture affecting our upbringing and future?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I've seen the way you're still very optimistic about the young people in Tanzania, which is good, and at the same time you've been a bit critical, trying to pointing out some things which you think could have been done better. Maybe now I'm coming to my last question. As far as Tanzania development is concerned, and the systems and everything which puts everything in place. I work in the health sector, and I've been having experience to work in different institutes, and I've seen honestly there are so well organized structures, and I've seen a lot of people working very much hard to make sure that they improve and they bring about positive impact. And I would say that maybe Tanzania could be one of countries in Africa that are doing so much good when it comes to having systematic structures in different sectors. This is from the sector of health. I don't know. What do you think on your side, especially in your career? What do you think? Do you think that everything is in place, and where do you think maybe something has to be done? And do you think where young people can play part?
Um, well, Joe, so as they say, I don't know who said this, that Africa is a country, is a village. Um, we stand influential in some areas, in some sectors of the economy, as a country. Our competitive advantage would also be looked at in terms of the natural resources we have, um, and our prospects for holding on to them, as our carriers of our economy, as our bargaining card, whenever we meet our colleagues, our fellow, among other things. But again, the human side of it, do we have quality and competitive individuals uh, who would also come and emerge as experts in a couple of other areas? Think about technology. Do we have people who can compete in terms of tech? Do we have how many Benji Fernandez who are founders? And probably also that how many Benji Fernandez that have not gotten the spotlight to make it to the levels, and how did the Benjis made it? I mean, how did they make it to become themselves? So these nuanced um, interventions would also help us to challenge ourselves and probably weigh our influence. In terms of legal, um, um, I would look at the past experience. Um, I know that Tanzania has very excellent lawyers, very excellent international lawyers. I once traveled with one of the senior counsels. He was going to um, Scotland. He was going to Scotland for to attend arbitration. They had a client, so they were going to arbitration tribunals. So before he traveled, his team had traveled, with volumes of pleadings, and he was happily going to court. He was confident, that he was prepared. He didn't bring an impression that now that I'm going into an international court, I'm going to go struggle. I'm going to meet. There's one day, one of the leaders said, watu wenye macho ya blue. Ukienda huko mnakutana na watu wenye macho ya blue, mnashindwa kesi. You know. So I was trying to show that there are excellent Tanzanian lawyers who are winning cases in international forums, very big subject matter cases. But again, our capacity as a country to create more litigators like this one is limited, in terms of the education that people get, but also the competitive advantage that they would go in terms of skills, in terms of being nuanced, in terms of international law and practices. But also, you would think about, for instance, in terms of the government, how it works. Um, Whenever decisions are made politically, and then you deploy lawyers to go defend a political decision, they wouldn't find where to utilize the law because the decision was political. For example, you terminate a contract with someone, and then they go to a tribunal. You are found guilty. So how do you expect lawyers to deliver? So there's a whole dynamic that has to be studied and understood in terms of how we do our things. As private lawyers, um, our big law firms are doing very good, very good. But in terms of us as a country, a pool of government lawyers we have, um, sometimes they lose cases not because of the competence, but because there was a political decision. But also coming to the field I'm working in terms of human rights, um, there's plenty to do in terms of having lawyers that have a human rights perspective. However, sometimes you find that a lawyer knows something, but then the position of the government is a bit incompatible to international law, and the government is a bit, unwilling to accept it. We are losing a lot of cases at the African court, for example. More than 41% of cases in the African court against Tanzania. And the majority of those cases were won by people who sued our government. So we have plenty of orders of the African court. For my second master's degree, I studied African court in Tanzania. And then I read and assessed 25 decisions that were decided against Tanzania in terms of directing legal or constitutional reforms. Um, and all those cases were won by individuals who sued our government. However, the government had not implemented those cases, save for only partially implementing two of the orders. So you look at it as that the government lost, but probably it wasn't the government that lost, but rather our legal system was not compatible to certain acceptable standards that we have accepted as Africans. And these are the standards that the court uses. So you would not blame the lawyers, but you would look at it that, it's our legal system is not aligned to this. So then what should we do? Now we should align our legal system with, yeah. So broadly, we have so much to learn in terms of skills, in terms of competence. We have to explore other areas as well. For example, in extractives, we need to have solid mining lawyers who can sometimes come and represent the country. We need to have solid maritime lawyers who can represent the country. We need to have solid commercial lawyers, especially the young people. Because, when we finish school, you finish law school, the immediate is to give back to whoever contributed for your education. So you would struggle to get a government job. Some are very low. They get a very low pay. Some become magistrates. But you would know for a fact that wamejiegesha tu until when they get a high paying job. Development. So you work for a law firm, you work for someone, they don't pay you handsomely, although they get paid handsomely as a company, but they don't pay you to a deserving amount. But because of nitafanya nini, if I leave this law firm, what will I do? So we have to also challenge ourselves and open up, taking personal risks that now I'm going to start mine. Now we are doing, a partnership with my friends. We're going to look for clients. After some years, you say, now I need to go to school and major on this. I need to be an expert on this. So it's complicated, bro.
Yeah, I see, and thank you for very comprehensive like explanations. For me, I've been learning, and now I know a lot more of this legal side as compared to before.
Mm.
Now I just
Mm.
have a few very quick questions, and I would like you to give me to just answer in short. Number one, are you proud of your journey? Would you go back all over again at the same journey if you had that opportunity?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. No regrets. No regrets. Have grown probably more independent through this journey. I've, I've, I've grown a skin that I would say I'm confident of, I'm proud of. I've grown some connection that I'm proud of. Yeah, so if I'm told to go back to my upbringing, I I would become more better than this. But no regrets, no regrets. Yeah.
Thank you. Another question. What makes you so confident?
Um, yes, I think information, information that whenever you are informed, but also the fact that uh, I'm doing the right thing. And even if the world rallies against me, then nature will defend me because I believe in divine judgments that anything that is meant to occur, it will find a way. So nature will eventually defend me in circumstances that the world would have conspired against me.
Okay. I think that's enough for today, Tito. Thank you so much. I've been learning a
Asante
lot.
sana Joe.
I've been
Asante
learning a
sana,
lot.
asante sana.
Yes. And I think this is going to be very much uplifting, especially for young people. Just having a millennial, and also even for Gen Z who will be looking, and they'll see how much other young people are doing, how much confident they are, and there is some secrets of being confident here. There's a lot to learn. And I believe this is going to be very uplifting because I think, yeah, it's true that Tanzanians, most of the times we happen to be laid back, and I think that's not how we're supposed to be because the world is competitive and everyone wants to win, people from inside and outside. And I think we have to be very aggressive. So thank you so much, Tito, for this very inspirational talk.
Pleasure.
Yes, and
Pleasure.
if in case you have anything to say, maybe before we call it a day.
No, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. I loved um, the conversation. It was very organic, and
Mhm.
yeah, if anyone finds it useful, then my pleasure. Yeah,
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to catching up with you again.
sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.